Hello, Trail Seeker. Welcome to part 2, episode 330 of our 2-part interview with Kellyann Andrews. I know you're definitely going to love part 2. I want to let you know about a fantastic resource that I created for you. I got together with some of my favorite local naturopathic physicians and we filmed a free doctor course. So these are naturopaths that are looking to support you in your holistic health journey. Please go to freedoctorcourse.com. And that it is exactly what it says. It is literally free and it's videos that I made with doctors. We filmed it here in our studio and my husband and I did everything. He's amazing at filming and we edited them and put it all together and built this whole 8-day wonderful free doctor course for you to support the listeners of the Learn True Health podcast. You'll probably find some of the videos are so helpful that you're going to share them with your friends as well. And please feel free to do that. So go to freedoctorcourse.com, sign up to gain access to these wonderful videos from these amazing naturopathic physicians. One of the doctors was the dean of the naturopathic college here, Bastyr University. It's really exciting to learn from naturopathic physicians because they know everything that medical doctors know, but in addition, they know all about healing the body naturally with food, lifestyle, supplements, herbs, homeopathy, energy work. You know, the list goes on and on. So they look to first support you in the foundations of health. So you're going to learn a lot of fantastic foundations that you're going to want to start to implement and start to see wonderful changes in your health. So go to freedoctorcourse.com. Enjoy this resource that my husband and I have created for you, the Learn True Health listeners, to help support you in your true health journey. Enjoy today's interview. Welcome to the Learn True Health podcast. I'm your host, Ashley James. This is episode 330. Can you tell us more about it? Like, I mean, I know we've talked before and you're limited as to what you can share because of the proprietary technology, but is there any more you can explain as to how it stimulates the body to detox, or is there any more we can get into the details around it?
Well, I mean, huge part is the body knowing. The body, it isn't chelation. That's the thing that I really have to educate so many people about, because they automatically think, like you did, heavy metals, but then they automatically think it's chelation kind of concept. But it's not. It's the body that is doing the filtering. So, when we first started out, it was like, people had, if they had a sinus issue or a musculature issue or, a digestive issue. I mean, whatever their issue was, we saw them have a transformation around that. And so, in the beginning, we were sort of scratching our heads as to, how could this technology know what part of the body is actually, the problem. And then of course one day the light shone in my brain and it was like, ding, it isn't the equipment, it's the body. The body knows where the issue is. The body knows what the toxicity is. The body knows what it's storage closeted out of circulation as a protective mechanism. And so what we're doing is just opening up the drainage routes, whether the person has a clogged liver, a clogged heart, clogged lungs, seen in pneumonia or any kind of lung issue, and or whether it's a gallbladder issue or a pancreas issue. So basically, at the core of the body is one thing: cells, and those cells, when they get congested with internal toxicity, which happens to be man-made, chemicals, agricultural chemicals, industrial chemicals, including heavy metals. But what is occurring as to why people are so in overwhelm is because of the multiple exposures of these chemicals. getting into their body simultaneously. And then here's the bummer on top of everything is that those chemicals start to have an interaction and create a worse compound. And so the body in its wisdom is trying to, keep things corralled, keep things, broken apart. The liver's main job is to try to change the chemistry when it can, but with something like heavy metals or some of these horrible man-made agricultural chemicals, it can't do anything with them. So its only choice is to storage closet them. So with your friend, any kind of skin issue is classically, a toxicity sign. Edema is a toxicity sign. One of the reasons the body's wisdom creates edema is to try to dilute the toxic chemicals in that zone. So it will actually bring fluid into that area, trying to dilute the concentration. And so, with our technology, there's coils in the water, and those coils are, an anode and a cathode coil. And so it's a positive and negative coil. So what it does is it actually creates an osmotic pressure in the water. And so that osmotic pressure is a higher gradient than what's in the skin. And so now we put the feet into warm salt water, open up the sweat glands, allow the body to sweat out into the basin. And in that content of the sweat are particles, and those particles are positive and negative. So now the coils work sort of like magnets. The negative coil draws to the positive, the negative particle is drawn to the positive coil and vice versa. And so that's one of the mechanisms of, how does it actually transport? So like the body has designed the conveyor belt. It's designed the lava tube already, which is the lymphatic system. The lymph system is your way of exiting toxic content from the core of the mountain, the cells, to the surface. And so what the technology does is it literally helps to break up the particles, the molecules, the mass of molecules into their particle state. Now the body can deal with them. But what happens around your cell is that you have a lipid layer or a fat layer around the cell, and it just completely clogs up with this internal pollution, both on the cell wall, externally and internally. So when you were talking ages and ages ago about, the nutritional component, yeah, the health of the body is dependent on two things: getting the nutrition in and the toxicity out. But if now the cell wall is completely sealed off like ivy on a fence, no nutrients are getting in and no toxicity is getting out. So the first thing you got to do is clean the aquarium. So the internal environment inside the body is either assisting wellness or assisting illness. And it assists illness when it's all clogged up with toxicity, and it assists wellness when it's full of nutrients. And that's what we talked about in the previous podcast about the chicken cell, the heart cell. Speaking of your friend and heart, the heart cell that stayed alive for 30 years because they changed the water every day. So they gave it the electrolytes, the nutrients that it needed for its survival, and it just kept going. The only reason it stopped was they forgot to change the aquarium water in the petri dish that day.
Right. You're just to reiterate, you're talking about a university study where they had cells from a chicken, and they were able to keep those cells alive for years and years and years, as long as they continue to clear out the toxins and give it nutrients. And
give it the electrolytes it needed,
right, and then on the
for
day,
its survival.
And then the day that the days that they forgot to clear out the toxins is when it died.
Exactly. And I mean, that's what Bruce Lipton became so famous for in his, biology of belief, was that he was teaching med students at the university that genetics was the significance of why we were vulnerable to disease. But then he would go into the lab and he was working with stem cells, and these were identical stem cells. So I had identical genetics. And what he realized, it wasn't the genetics of the stem cells that made the difference. It was the environment in which he put the stem cells in and what he put in that environment that changed the stem cells.
Wasn't it, forget, correct me if I'm wrong, but was it Louis Pasteur that also said that? Um, Gosh, what was it, him or was it someone else? I'm just totally drawing a blank. That someone said at the end of their life, they
Yeah,
said
it was Louis
it
Pasteur.
was
He
Louis Pasteur.
admitted that it wasn't the genetics, that it was the environment.
The
You're right.
environment of the body, which is one of the principles that naturopathic medicine bases their
It's founded
philosophy
on.
on, right? Exactly, is that we need to clean up the environment of the body. I recently had an email last night, and I've been thinking, it's actually been preoccupying my mind as to how crafting my answer to her. I have a long email from a listener. So if you're listening, hello. Um, and she talks about how she's lost all hope. She's tried everything, that, but she has enough hope to reach out to ask for some guidance, and it's just very interesting because my answer to her is going to be a little bit about this, about how the we need to stop looking at, how do I correct my thyroid or how I correct my fertility and only looking at that one aspect. It's when we get that 30,000 foot view of our whole body as a system and go, how do I create that optimal, what does my body need as a whole? What do I need to stop doing in my life? And, emotionally, mentally, what do I need to do that is healthy? What behaviors and activities and what environments do I need to take myself out of that are not healthy? What things do I need to incorporate that are? And then nutritionally, how can I bring in the nutrients and how can I support the body in bringing in nutrients and getting out the toxins as a whole? And when we do that as a whole, the innate intelligence of the body will start correcting the different systems. And um, what I find fascinating, because I've been working for the last 7 years with clients in supplements, is that when someone has a nutrient deficiency, let's say vitamin C, right? Let's say they have scurvy, they have classical, they brush their teeth, and every time they brush their teeth, their gums bleed. And of course, if you have scurvy on the outside, you have it on the inside. So all your blood vessels are very weak. You likely have plaque buildup because your body's trying to compensate, and so vitamin C is needed to produce, and I'm just using vitamin C because everyone's heard of vitamin C, but there's 16 vitamins the body needs, but vitamin C is the one that we all know about, that it's one of the
Antioxidants are
yeah,
huge to
right,
health.
right, and it's a raw building block of collagen, elastin, that kind of thing. So if you don't have vitamin C, or smokers is a classic example, you see that they're leathery skin, they look 60 when they're 40, that kind of thing. Well, that leathery, worn out skin on the outside is actually what's going on in the inside as well. And if you don't have one nutrient, just think of one nutrient that's low, everything is suffering on the inside. And then when we give someone, let's just say we're just giving them more vitamin C because that's what they were missing, which never happens in reality. Nutrient deficiencies are like wolves. They travel in packs. You're never just deficient in one thing alone.
Domino effect.
Right? Exactly. And so when we give that person the nutrients they were missing, the scurvy doesn't go away first. Like, oh, like within a few days, the gums just stop bleeding. That's not how it works. The body does triage, which I found fascinating, that the body has so much intelligence that it goes, okay, what's most important is the heart, because if the heart's not beating, we're dead instantly. So the body, if you take in the vitamin C, the body first gives it, and the heart uses up that vitamin C, and then the next organ and the next organ, and so the tissues that are needing it for survival first will absorb and utilize it. And so when you're taking great supplements and you've had maybe thin hair, you've had, your nails are brittle and always cracking, and you're not happy with your skin health, that doesn't correct in the first month or the second month or even the third month sometimes, depending on how worn down that person is, how deficient they were. Even though skin takes days or weeks, depending on the layer, to replace itself, the and you're giving yourself the nutrients, sometimes it's 6 months or more until they start to see, wow, my nails are harder and my hair is growing in thick and my skin is nice. I have a friend on Facebook that was completely bald with couldn't grow hair, and she now has hair below her shoulders, and this was all based on nutrients.
How
Um,
awesome.
yeah, she's
Absolutely
amazing.
awesome.
Yeah, her name's Emily. I'm gonna have her on the show. Actually, she's a wonderful story. But when I was I've been friends with her. When I couldn't grow any hair, and it was, she had skin issues and everything, and now she's nutritionally corrected everything, and it grew. It all came back in. But this is the point, is that the body's going to do triage work, and so people notice 6 months into a supplement program, and of course, again, we have to do lifestyle and diet. You can't out supplement a bad diet. You can't be in a toxic environment and take a vitamin and think it's all going to get better. So it has to be everything. But 6 months or 3 or 6 or 9 months down the road, that's when they start to see the less important tissues of the body, like nails, which are not meant for our immediate survival, right? They start to get healthy, and the skin starts to get healthy, and then the hair starts to get healthy, and that external looking health is a wonderful reflection that all the internal organs have been bathed in the nutrients they needed and have taken what they wanted, and now it's time for the lesser um, important tissues to have their turn. And so the body does this triage work, and I thought it was really fascinating to see that time and time again, that the body has that innate wisdom, just like you said, that with your system, with the detox system, that your body has this innate wisdom that I think we're so smart and we know all the science, but we're just beginning to understand. And I love learning from doctors and scientists who, especially like immunologists, and who go, we know nothing. Like the ones who have no hubris, and they're the big open mind, and they know a ton of stuff, but they go, we haven't even scratched the surface when it comes to understanding our body. Our body is amazing and so complex and so miraculous. And to go to a doctor that thinks they know everything and just wants to give you a drug because they think they know everything, that is so detrimental, because the body has this amazing ability to heal itself if we support it to.
Well, and it has its own pharmacy internally, and so that's why, your analogy of, the hair, the skin, the nails, the external symptoms of wellness are so huge. And that's why, the one thing as the healing habit daily is to, stand in front of the mirror and just look at your body in terms of acknowledging, how beautiful it is, and then putting a photograph of yourself when you were at your highest state of well-being, or put a photograph of someone who looks just, like a model on a health magazine cover, and put that up as your visual of someone that just represents just perfect radiant health to you, whatever that image is, and just stand in front of it. And sometimes having a visual is so wonderful, because you just look at that visual and you just own it. And that is one of the key things, that I see on the path of wellness, is that when people come to me, they're in the ownership of illness, and they've got the
Mm.
title, and they've got the focus on degeneration. Like that person who wrote you that long email, like she is so into watching the illness movie. And I mean, her whole mind is focused on all the things that are going wrong. And so what we need to do is we need to change the movie. We need to change over to the visuals of wellness, of vitality, of rejuvenation, of, endless energy and stamina. And so put that visual, whatever that is representing in your own mind, in front of you every day, and literally move into ownership and say, this is what I am creating now. And not put your attention on your illness or your symptoms or what's missing or lacking or whatever. 100% focus on what do you want to experience and own it in the now, not the future. It's got to be in a present tense focus and bring it into your actual reality today.
Mindset is so important when it comes to healing. I've talked about this before, and I have a course. It's called Free Your Anxiety. I definitely encourage listeners to check it out. And if you go to learntohealth.com, right there on the right hand side is a banner. On the banner, you can click to sign up for the free webinar where I teach some of this stuff, and then afterwards, if you'd like, you can purchase the course. I do a 21-day course on. Of course, you can take 3 months to take the course. It's just every day it gives you content, but it's about 45 minutes worth of content every day for 21 days, and I teach these tools, neurolinguistic programming tools for shifting your mindset towards healing, and that shifts your whole body, and all your cells are listening to that. There's so many studies that prove that the mind-body connection is real, and that by shifting your attention and your focus, you are lowering the adrenaline, the cortisol. You're lowering that stress response, which increases the healing. You either have one or the other, right? It's the autonomic nervous system. So you're either in healing mode or you're in stress mode. And so there's a way, and the body is listening to the brain and listening to all our thoughts and all of our focus. And so you start to focus on what you don't want, you're going to get more of that. And it's just amazing how uh, this complex system works, but our body is listening to our thoughts and our brain. And so I'm not saying just think positive and ignore your body's symptoms, because we talked about we need to listen to our body and become even more aware of our symptoms and those whispers and what's our body telling us, so that we can then take that information. Like if you woke up with a headache, go, instead of just grabbing an Advil and moving on, go, oh, that's interesting. What happened? What's going on in my body that my body is talking to me? But if we're in that mindset of a victim of our circumstance, of our illness, then we might start lamenting about it. Oh, I hate having a headache. This hurts so much. When am I going to feel better? I'm never going to feel better. This is never getting better. Am I, oh, this is going to affect this, is going to affect that. And I know I've been there. I've totally been there, feeling like a prisoner trapped in a sick body, in suffering all the time, crying all the time because of how much it hurt emotionally and physically. So I've been there. And one of the biggest things I've done to help heal so many of the conditions that I've healed in the last 10 years is shifting my mindset, focusing towards what I do want, but at the same time listening to the symptoms of my body, and instead of judging them. So instead of going like judging the headache, go, oh, that's interesting. My body's telling me something. Maybe it's dehydration. Maybe it's, a mold exposure. Maybe it's, you go down the list, right? Maybe I ate something, right? But like, at least it's telling us something now. It's whispering to us, so we can start to look and see, what do we need to give it? What do we need to avoid giving it? And focus on the end result being that you're healthy, right? So bringing your attention towards your end goal of health, and listening to the symptoms of the body, saying what I want to hear my symptoms so I can make a little adjustments so I can get the health that I deserve, and focusing on that feeling of what would it feel like if I was totally healthy right now. So I love you're pointing out, when we look in the mirror, we're always looking for flaws. I'm always looking for, if I have like a chin hair I have to
I
pluck.
know how
I'm just
funny we
always
are.
looking at what or I have to brush my hair, or yeah, the
Correction.
correction,
What
right?
needs correction? But you see, school taught us that. The news teaches that. It's always, what's wrong. But so I love what you were just saying, because it's like, yeah, take action now. But the key, which is what you were so pointing out, that is so vital, is to do it at the onset, do it at the budding stage of some, signal, not, when you're flat on your back and not able to move. So, the key thing that I find, and I'm sure you do too, is that to educate clients that they need to address the issue at the beginning of the upset, whether that upset happens to be a physical symptom, an emotional feeling, or a mental thought. And if you can catch yourself in the moment, because we have two lives. We have our unconscious life and we have our conscious life. And so the unconscious life is, when we're on autopilot, which, Bruce Lipton, is so funny. He calls it the default, where we go back to our default, which is our programming, our first 7 years of our lives, our autopilot, our remote control or robot self. And so you catch yourself in the midst of having a reaction or an upset or whatever, and you just stay conscious in that moment, and you choose what you want the end result to be. And the more that you stay conscious, and the more you realize that just on a mental level of what is going on, somebody's pushing your button, and you find your hackles rising up, and you just feel this whole reactiveness coming up in your body. Like the other day, I mean, this is such a simple illustration, but I bought a salt shaker. I mean, here's a simple, quick task to do in life in between everything else going on in the express lane of life. I go into the kitchen store to get a salt grinder. And so the one that I buy, I take home and it won't grind the salt. So I'm like, what the heck? So anyways, and this place is not near me. So now I have to drive all the way back there, replace the thing, and I take it back, and she said I can't take it back because it's used. And I'm like, hello, it doesn't work. Well, what it turned out was the salt that I was using was a wet salt instead of a dry salt. So a little bit of technical there. But anyways, here's the point of the story. I was having a complete eruption occur inside of myself. I was like, you're telling me you won't take this back because it's used? I didn't use it. It wouldn't work. And so, you catch yourself in that moment, because that negative feeling wasn't going to affect her. Well, if I had an eruption, it might, but the thing was that who it was going to affect, it was going to affect my heart. My hands would start sweating, that whole, fight and flight response, that whole amygdala, limbic response. And of course, that does not send joy juice around your body. And so you got to catch yourself in these moments of life and retrain yourself to stay conscious.
I love it. Because if there's joy, if the joy juice isn't flowing, we need to take a breather. We need to
Well, and
get.
you're not healing and repairing your body in the moment of eruption. Let me tell you, you're doing the opposite. You're melting down your internal zones and putting them in heat overdrive and shutting down the cell gates, and the mitochondria, which are your energy producers, are using up energy that could have been used constructively, and it's being used destructively. But it requires you to stay conscious. It requires you to evolve and say, okay, what is the outcome I really want here? So I'm in that moment of on the verge of eruption, just went, okay, chill out, chill out. This isn't going to get us anywhere. You want to replace this salt shaker with something that works. That was the purpose for coming in here. So in the end, I took a discount on my refund, and so then she got to keep the salt shaker. I didn't get to keep it, and I got a salt shaker that worked for me. But it's so amazing, those moments of life that challenge us, whether it's your spouse, your husband, your child, your coworker, someone in traffic, being very rude and obnoxious driver. Like all those moments of challenge, they're all impacting you emotionally, mentally, and physically. And if you're moving to reactive mode, you're not helping your body in that moment to heal, repair, and feel happy.
I love it. I always love talking about this because it's something we have control over. If you have a magnesium deficiency, like that's sometimes, or if you have a nutrient deficiency, right? If there's something that's like, that's very external, you have to go get it and put it in your body somehow, absorb it somehow, either through, IV, or, the magnesium foot bath, or, you know, taking an oral supplement. Somehow you got to get it in you, right? Not always easy to do if you have issues like absorption problems. But so that's, it's very physical, go get magnesium, get it in your body. That's what your body needs. Um, but this aspect of shifting mindset, shifting focus, that is so relevant. It's as relevant as addressing a nutrient deficiency. And we have 100% control of it. We don't have to go outside ourselves to go to a supplement store, for example, right? It's 100%. We have all the capacity. And it's a matter of learning, of course, of learning these tools, of learning first to catch ourselves, to get conscious of it, and to start to rewire our thinking. First, it takes being very conscious and intentional and catching ourselves. Like you had to catch yourself in your tantrum around your salt shaker, right? And we have to catch ourselves in traffic when we're having a little tantrum about that person shouldn't have cut me off, and I'm going to show them, I'm going to flash my lights, or I'm going to rev my engine, or whatever. We're just being so, I'm just, now that I have a toddler, I can see we're all just a bunch of tall, like
we're little kids.
We were 5 foot tall toddlers. Big bodies.
Exactly. I know. It's just so fun to watch. But, if you get into the entertainment of it as if it's a movie. But, what we're really talking about is making right lifestyle choices, healing habits in the moment. I mean, we had this man who was actually the father-in-law of a client. And she was one of the Lyme patients, by the way, and it was her, as well as many others, that had said to me, "My God, your PS system is my go-to." Well, she had a diabetic father-in-law, and so he phones her up, and he tells her that his blood sugars are 440.
Oh my
so
gosh.
You can imagine if his blood sugars are 440, what is he been doing? He's not been making healthy choices. So anyways, so he comes over for a session. So then he retests his blood sugars the next morning. And the next morning, they're now down somewhere in the 200s. She didn't know exactly where they were. And from doing one session. But get this, that day is the day before Thanksgiving. So Thanksgiving Day is when he retested himself and his blood sugars had dropped. But that night, what does the diabetic do? I mean, you just give your head a shake. He goes to his Thanksgiving family dinner, and not only does he eat the marshmallow sugar sweet potatoes, he also eats the 2 pies for dessert on top of the turkey dinner. Well, an absolute perfect way to upload pure acid. And so he's thinking the next day his blood sugars are going to be at 600, but this is 2 days after his session. His blood sugars on Friday morning after Thanksgiving dropped down to 118.
Amazing.
And you see, that's what happens, is that this technology not only works on you in the moment of you having this session, but it continues to assist your body the days following. So when he did this massive upload of sugar, his body knew not to take it in and dumped it out. And so, that was just so brilliant. But, again, we're going back to, sort of lifestyle habits. Now, we've been dealing with people who have kidney issues. We have a number of patients that come to us because their kidney is either not working at all, or it's faltering, or they're missing a kidney.
I'm so glad you're telling this story. I just have to say, because I remember you telling me, I remember you like emailing me going, "Oh my gosh, we have this dialysis patient, and oh my gosh, I got to tell you the results." And I forgot to ask you. So I'm so glad you're remembering to tell us, because I am like beside myself thrilled for you to tell us about the dialysis patient's results.
Yeah, so this woman, the dialysis patient herself, I have 2 stories here, but I have a few stories around kidneys, but The dialysis patient herself was 75 years old, and she happened to go to a practitioner of ours who was the exact same age. And the practitioner knew, how this woman was, in quite a state. And as a matter of fact, the woman came to her after being in the hospital for a month and almost dying. She had been down in Arizona and had pneumonia, and they had to fly her home, and she almost died in the hospital. But her kidney function was down to 3. And so this practitioner started to work with her and did, 2 or 3 sessions a week with her to get her opened up, because again, there it's the kidney's not working, or the pancreas isn't working, or the thyroid isn't working. They're clogging up with internal pollution. So now you get the cells clean and the functionality comes back. So now this woman's kidney function is up to 15. But the real fun story that I have was a client who, he's up in the same age category, and he started out with his kidney function down at 9. Well, because his function was so low, his MD sent him to a kidney doctor, a nephrologist, and the nephrologist wanted him to go on dialysis. Well, it wasn't a suggestion. The guy literally hounded this poor patient and just stayed on him and on him. Well, this patient just totally resisted. I mean, not only did he not want the lifestyle of be a dialysis patient, but he didn't want a lot of the restrictions, and he looked further into it, and it wasn't quite what he was into. So anyways, so he ended up at a clinic that had our system, and so that doctor, knowing he had a kidney issue, put him on our system. Well, within a couple months, his kidney function came up to 11. So he ended up purchasing the system. And now, 2 weeks ago, he phoned me because he was thrilled, because now his kidney function's up to 13. And when he reaches 15, the nephrologist will stop saying hello, because he's in the moment of freedom, because he's no longer a kidney dialysis candidate. But here's the best part of the story, is that the nephrologist, who's an old-time doc, has been in practice for decades, has never, ever in his entire history as a nephrologist seen kidney failure reverse.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Exactly. I've worked with some really cool old school naturopaths who've been practicing for a long time, and they've been able to reverse get people off of dialysis. And it is amazing how every single time the MD is just like, this shouldn't be possible. This isn't, this isn't either they were the tests were wrong or something, but they have no belief that the body can heal itself or reverse disease.
Yeah, well, and what I just so love is that we're moving more and more into mainstream medical. We just had an MD, in the last couple of months purchase a system of ours. And so then she was, working with patients that she's had for years. So one of her patients was an elderly woman who literally was completely dependent on a cane to get around. And after a series of sessions on our system, the patient phoned the MD back and said, I don't need my cane any longer. My muscle pain has completely gone.
Oh my gosh, I love it.
Yeah, well, and so one of your listeners,
Oh yeah, tell us about our listeners. So I know that you've
yeah,
had probably 100 phone calls from our listeners, and I know last time you told me at least 30 listeners had bought a Platinum Energy system. That number's probably gone up since then, because you told me that number a few months ago. But which you're not paying me or anything. I mean, you've gifted me some arrays. I'm so grateful for that. But I want to get everyone healthy. I want to help everyone. And when I find something that works, I want to tell everyone about it. So you've had tons of wonderful contact with the listeners. Tell us some of the stories of success from the listeners, because I know they'll love hearing their success story on the show.
yeah, well, one of them following the woman who had the muscle pain. So I thought this would be interesting. This is a woman who's who's been a dancer in her life, and she's always had tight calf muscles and just tightness in her body altogether because of the maneuvers she just had to do with her body. But anyways, in the process of her having sessions, she noticed that her calf muscles were now looser. And her saying was that she felt like they were 10 pounds lighter, and that her legs were more agile, and that she had better range of motion, and the back of her thighs and upper back had released. Now, this is a woman who's obviously very in touch with her body. She could even feel how her hip flexors were more open, but she had been in a state of pain for quite some time and huge discomfort, and her pain level was an 8. Well, now in a couple sessions, it had dropped down to a 4. And the tightness that she was also experiencing in her lymphatic system up in the chest area had gone. But what was really interesting, which I see so much, especially with the women being, so real, is that she said her sense of dread had gone, and that the depression had gone, and that she had experienced before and now had gone, and that the fog had lifted, and that she was more present. But the big thing that she noticed was that her energy levels were up. Now, one of the things that is really interesting is that heavy metals will actually affect the mitochondria. And the mitochondria, like your little power cells, like a battery inside your cells. And so, yeah, the metals are actually really affecting the mitochondria. So as people dump the heavy metals, up come their energy levels. So another person had got, the day that she received the system, she had a sore throat. So usually we, set up a time, when they get it to do the session. Well, this person phoned me and wanted to do immediately because she had the sore throat. So anyways, we were able to arrange that. And so in her first session, the sore throat completely disappeared. And then what she experienced later was, about a week later, she then started to experience a bladder infection. So she had a second session and the bladder infection disappeared. And then what she told me was she was feeling better and better. And she noticed that her energy and stamina increased, but that she felt brighter and more alert was her main comment.
Why is it that it helps people move through infections so quickly? What is it? Is it the general, it's helping, clean up the environment of the body, draining that wheelbarrow, the rain barrel, draining the rain barrel and cleaning up the environment of the body so the body can just do what it's supposed to do? Is that it? Or is there more technical things as to why it helps blow out infections so well?
Yeah, well, I mean, it's the environmental aspect again, of course, because remember the analogy we used in the last podcast, the 292 and 293, was we talked about when you have a mucky aquarium full of, industrial chemicals, are artificial substances, heavy metals, all of that. So that environment, if you just think of a slimy, yucky, green, algae-looking aquarium, like swamp water kind of look. Well, that aquarium, I mean, the poor little fish in there, they're not doing so good. So that's the environment that induces the environment where fungus, bacteria, and viruses thrive, because they also thrive on that internal pollution. So now you got the pristine, clean aquarium. Take the poor little fish out of the first one, put them in the second one, and then, as you said, feed them the right food. They go from barely surviving to completely thriving. So why is that? What's the difference? The difference is the aquarium environment. So in the mucky aquarium, you've got high acidity and low oxygen. Bingo, number one environment for endorsing the proliferation of virus, bacteria, fungus, and mold. And now in the pristine clean one, you've got high oxygen and low acidity, which is where the good guys thrive. So the bad guys thrive in the hyperacidic environment, and the good guys thrive in the oxygen environment,
Mm.
which is what you were talking about earlier. And so with this woman, that's why it shifted her over. But it was interesting because another woman, her son was coming down with the flu. And so it was sort of, just hanging around for a couple of days. So she phoned me up and she said it would be good to put him in. I said immediately. So she put him in and it just stopped it completely. And so then she started feeling some of those, creepinesses in her body that was trying to catch hold of her. And so she immediately got in and had a session and it stopped it with her, and she felt calmer and more relaxed and just altogether just more at ease after the session. But what was interesting, she told the story how after that the entire, she lives in a small town, the whole entire town came down with it, and they were the only two that didn't get it.
That's really cool. Do you have any other stories of success or interesting stories of healing from listeners who have been using the Platinum Energy System that you'd
Yeah,
like
well,
to share?
one of the ones is that these people they live in a small town, but that small town has a chemical company that is manufacturing multiple different chemicals in
Mm.
that town. The entire town is sick from these chemicals. Now, a
Mm.
lot of the people in the town are actually employees of that chemical company, but
Mm.
everybody in the town is being exposed.
Where's Erin Brockovich when you need her?
I know. I mean, it is that kind of story, except for this is a known source rather than an unknown source.
Mm-hmm.
And so what happened was that these were practitioners, and they got the system to put in their practice. And so now they've been having the people of the town come in. Now, one of the people that worked in it was the woman that I actually did the session on initially as the training. And this woman was incredibly sick. I mean, her sinuses were so congested. You could tell she was just completely fatigued. She was just, one step under of being the couch potato. And so we did a session on her. And in that session, you could hear the whole respiratory system open up. The tone of her voice was different. She said her energy levels were different. The fog cleared. Her brain, she was more alert. She was more present. She was more awake. She was more relaxed. The pain that was in the body had subsided. The energy level had come up. I mean, you could just hear the transformation in her body. But get the garbage out of the body. I mean, it's just like a sink that's full of, you know, after you've washed the dishes in the sink and it's all that mucky water in there. Well, of course, the environment is internally in the body is just the same if you're not getting it out. So I always say that, health is putting the right stuff in and getting the wrong stuff out. But illness is putting the wrong stuff in and not getting the wrong stuff out. So what happened with one of your listeners was it was a mom and her two children. So the mom had issues, and she was just continuously at a very low ebb on several symptoms manifesting in her body. So, anyway, she wanted to get the system for herself, but then she wanted to use it on her children. So, her both of her children were very vulnerable. The little one was definitely autistic. I think both of her children actually were. Anyways, the little one, she when she would not feel great, she would completely withdraw, and she had, you know, she just basically shut down. So, anyways, the mom started doing sessions on her, and so she started feeling so great that the two of them would do a session every 3 days, and they just started feeling fabulous. And now this little one goes to school. Get this, the little one goes to school, and the teacher asks the kids to draw their favorite family activity. So the little one draws herself having a foot spa and mom putting the water in the basin.
Oh, that's so
Isn't that
cool.
sweet? Well, and what the mother noticed in terms of behavior, and this is what we see with the ADH children and the autistic children, is that, when they have a session, their whole entire body calms down. So the agitated behavior completely starts to ebb out. And so the little ones will sit through the whole session, which is what I mentioned in the previous one, where the 4-year-olds who wouldn't sit still for 3 minutes now sits still while his mother sets up his session and then completely sits still through the 30 minutes. Well, these kids are just so amazing because they so get how significant this is for their body, and they just completely chill out. And so the body is really understanding the significance of the sessions. And one of your listeners, this was a great one. She said, my mood has significantly changed. I'm so much more up. My energy is up. My breathing is easier. My pH is up. I feel happier, lighter, brighter. But here's what really caught me was she said, I can find joy again.
Wow, that's awesome.
Yeah. And one of your listeners' husbands, he had debilitating pain in the upper part of his back. I mean, he was literally immobilized by this pain. And after a series of sessions, that pain completely left. Now, another one of your listeners called me because she had a toothache, and the toothache at the start of the day was like 9 out of 10 on pain. And so she phoned me up and she said, do you think it would help? And I said, well, yeah, because your nerve is going crazy in your tooth because of the hyperacidity. And so we got to get that acid level down. And so, of course, she tested her pH, and of course, she was very acidic. But after the session, the pain went down to a 1 and her pH went up.
That's something we actually haven't talked about in today's interview, but I was absolutely fascinated how you can take the pH of your saliva and urine before a platinum energy system, 30 minutes, only 30 minutes. And then afterwards, take the pH saliva, as the pH of your saliva, and it's shifted tremendously. And you can take your pH all day long, and as long as you're not eating, right? It's like, because that'll shift obviously the chemistry in your mouth. But nothing, I've found nothing that will dramatically make your body more alkaline than that quickly than the platinum energy system has. So I thought that was really, really interesting. It's another, even a lot of people feel it, they feel good, like, oh wow, I feel good. But sometimes we need to plug into the proof, like, let's do some labs, let's do some proof. And so immediately right away you
Exactly.
get some proof, like do the pH, and you can see there's a physiological change. Now, didn't you I think you told me that one of the listeners had children who had such a profound result that their teacher noticed they were better in school.
Yeah, the teacher actually said, "My God, what did you do to these children?" And so the mother said, "What?" And she said, I've never seen them respond like this. The little boy who was normally, the Tasmanian devil, he was just, hyper to the max. He sat down and read a book, and the little girl who was completely not sociable went and played with the other little girls. And that was also the mother who I was just telling you about, that what she did notice with her child was that as she had the sessions, she became more affectionate, more outgoing, more cooperative, and just altogether pleasant. And the mother always knew when was the right time to do the next session because her happy mood turned sad again.
Wow. I love it. I love
So the
hearing these
body
stories.
responds, the body knows what it needs. I mean, that's what we talked about, your body is so brilliant at helping you and also communicating to you what it wants. And so what we just need to learn is to hear what's a yes and what's a no.
I've got some questions. So, how do you have results around supporting the body to come back into balance in terms of thyroid illness? Have there have you seen people with like Graves' disease or hyper or hypothyroidism, um, or an autoimmune thyroid condition come back towards balance, towards health when using this system?
Yes. Now this is an interesting area because it is, multiple dimensions. But one of the biggest things that we notice with people, and even the functional medicine docs are now alerted to this. So when they see a patient has a thyroid issue, they realize the thyroid is the yellow canary in the mind. So the miners take the canary down to test how the air quality is and whether it's safe for them to breathe that air. So the thyroid is the first gland that is offended in the body by toxicity because, of course,
Right.
it's in the mouth. Now,
But
what else
also,
is it?
the whole purpose of the thyroid is to concentrate, right? Because it takes iodine and it concentrates
Yes,
it a
yes.
hundredfold. And so that makes so much sense that the thyroid would be affected when there's toxicity because it takes what comes into the thyroid and concentrates it, right?
So this is where we go back to body wisdom and the cell danger response again. So the thyroid is doing both of those simultaneously. The wisdom of the body knows it's toxic and it's going into the danger response. So it's trying to counteract what is current. But what is right beside the thyroid is the teeth and the dental issues that everybody's experiencing, especially the
Mm.
amalgam fillings. Now, one of the things that we have found, especially prevalent in young women who have thyroid nodules, but often these women will also have chronic skin issues as well as other autoimmune issues, is one of the sources of their toxicity is nickel.
Oh, where does that
So
come
look
from?
at, well, the nickel is coming hugely, not only from dental amalgams and also braces in the mouth, orthodontal braces,
Mm.
but jewelry worn right bare on the skin.
Mm-hmm.
And so these women, like one of your listeners, she actually was, she created jewelry, and she had to stop doing that because she started experiencing an extreme nickel allergy. And so other sources of nickel, of course, are coins, but cooking ware, heavy metals are leaching it out, and so they're increasing the acidity. There's food that has nickel in it. Um, iPhones apparently have a nickel aspect to them. Electronic devices, household appliances, batteries, lotions, vitamins, tobacco, tap water, transit railings. I mean, it's just amazing. And so, it's increasing the autoimmune response. It's being absorbed through the skin. So these people are having all these flare ups on their skin 24 to 48 hours after wearing the jewelry, and nobody can figure it out. Or they have pierced ears or pierced body parts, or they have jobs with metals, or they're hairdressers.
Mm.
So nickel is huge. And as a matter of fact, there's something called SNAPS. So it's SNAS, nickel allergy syndrome. So people can look it up. Nickel allergy syndrome, SNAS. And it may be the root cause of Hashimoto's. It's very common for
Oh.
people with Hashimoto's to have a nickel allergy.
Oh, that's very interesting. That's the first I've ever heard of it. Um, when how would we go about testing that? Would you think that blood or hair analysis would be best in testing nickel toxicity, or is it just better to focus on detox and not pay for all the tests? Because it's kind of like this catch 22. It's like you can spend thousands of dollars on all these very complex tests to figure out where your heavy metals are, and where your body is in terms of, and plus you can test for different, pesticides and herbicides and all the environmental toxins. And then now you have this list of all the things okay, now we see what's in you, but now we have to go dig it out. So,
I know that is the $1 million question. I mean, I'm of the old school of thought, when in doubt, leave it out. You know, like if you think it might be a problem, it probably is. You know, or you wouldn't even be having the cue of it. And then again, you know, our whole conversation is, what is your body telling you? Is it a yes or is it a no? Do you feel good when you're around it? Do you feel good when you drink it? Do you feel good when you eat it? And so your body is giving you cues and clues all the time. And so, you know, one of the things that, you know, has always been done, which, you know, I'm sure you've made everybody aware of, you know, the elimination concept. If you think a food is an issue, then eliminate it from your diet for XYZ time and then reintroduce it and see if you have a reaction.
right.
But, you know, that sort of applies to everything in life, including toxic people.
Yes. My
Minimize them. What I do
right.
is, you know, like the computer, it's like, okay, let's hit the minus button on the computer, you know, minimize the screen. So if someone is driving you crazy in your life, then just try to minimize their influence. So what we want to do is maximize the positive and minimize the negative.
One of my clients this morning texted me and said, she has been so good. She's like, I wish I could have 100 clients just like her. She has been the best client. Sometimes I feel like I should be paying her, because she's so amazing. She's probably
Um,
listening to this. So hello. And we're coming up on working together 3 months now. And so she has not eaten bread. As you know, we've eliminated a bunch of foods that her body was not responding to. And she's been just filling her life with more and more joy. I love how you could say joy juice. She's filling her life with joy juice, and we've eliminated some foods that were really harming her. And food is only like 10% of it, because so much of it is mental, emotional, spiritual, energetic. Once we dial in diet and supplements, that's just 10%. Then there's like the rest of the work to fill the life up with joy and shift habits. But here she is. She texted me, and because her brother's in town, she's celebrating. She goes, I ate bread yesterday. I know, that was my cheat. But I feel horrible this morning. She goes, my blood sugar is higher. I mean, still within, an acceptable range. It's not like 400, but it's not a healthy level. She goes, my blood sugar is higher. I have brain fog. I just feel gross. What can I do? Besides drink more water, what can I do? She goes, this is lesson learned. My body does not want this food, because she's eliminated it for a long enough time. Just like you eliminate grains, and then when you go back to them, if you feel just brain fog and gross, or if you haven't eaten barley, wheat, rye, and oats, and then 2-3 months later you have a bagel and you just can't stand it, you can't stand how you feel. Now, she didn't feel the symptoms when she ate it. She was having fun. She was with family. She was enjoying herself. The next morning, she had the food hangover, right? Sometimes it
mhm.
takes a few days. And like you said, like sometimes because that immunoglobulin response sometimes isn't immediate. Sometimes it's 3 days later after you've had that exposure to that food or that substance. But yeah, so I gave her some advice, but I thought it was, and I do this too. I once in a while will test the waters and go, maybe I can handle this now, and just, or whatever, it's better to know, like, at least, hey, if I drink, like, I never drink alcohol, and it's just because when I was 19, I was a bartender, because in Canada, you can be a bartender sooner than 21. But I was a bartender, and I got so turned off alcohol because, if you babysit a bunch of drunk people,
Yeah,
Just for me, I guess some bartenders go towards alcohol. I went totally away from it. And
exactly.
but on the once a blue moon every 10 years when I drink alcohol, I do so knowing that the next day I might not feel good. And it's that thing where it's like if you've eliminated sugar from your diet, then you know how good you feel off of it. If you're going to
Yes,
choose to eat sugar for one night cuz it's a friend's birthday and you're just, whatever, you're going to you know there's a chance you're not going to feel good the next day, and
exactly.
at least you know why, right? At least you're not, for the people who don't know why they feel bad every day or every week, right? That not knowing drives us crazy because again, we're focusing on what's wrong, what's wrong, what's wrong. And whenever we feel these little symptoms come up of not feeling good, any not feeling good, if we don't know what's wrong, that not knowing drives us crazy because then our brain goes to the worst possible. It's cancer. I'm
I know.
broken. I'm dying. What's wrong with me? I'll never feel better again. I'll always feel bad. And that self-talk.
Doomsdaying thinking. I know
Yes.
exactly. But you know what's really interesting is that on the note of what you're saying, I just last week, as a matter of fact, came across the site in which they were doing before and after blood analysis. And so they were showing, dramatic differences before and after. But I was cured of ever wanting to eat gluten by this visual. They put up on the screen the person's blood as it looked normally. Then they had that person eat whatever source of gluten, and they put the blood back up, and it looked like huge snowballs in the screen. Like the whole thing was absolutely littered with these snowballs. And they said this was the result of the gluten. And what happens with the gluten is that the gluten can actually cause leaky gut syndrome. So
Mm-hmm.
then you have a cascade of issues following suit with all of that getting into the bloodstream.
Was that live blood cell analysis?
Yeah, live
Yeah,
blood cell
that
analysis.
that is interesting. Very interesting. Yeah, no, we've been gluten free for coming on 8 years now, and rarely have I cheated. I've I can probably count on one hand, and every time I go, wow, that the next day, the next few days, I don't feel 100%, and I know exactly what it is. Um, so I'm very fortunate to have discovered as part of my healing journey that barley, wheat, rye oats just are not my friend. And
They're not your friend. And one of the
yeah.
things that I do with clients is, when they know that there is something driving them crazy on a food level, what I'll do is I'll get them to just chart over,
Mm-hmm.
a period of time, a few days, at the most a week, all the foods they're eating, and then to follow that with how did they feel afterwards. So every time they have a meal, then, record how they're feeling following. And what you'll find is that will actually flush up for you who the offenders are, because you'll see the pattern start to occur. When you eat this particular food, this is how you feel. And then you can find out who it is that's causing the problem.
Absolutely. The food mood journal. I love it.
Yeah, it is the
Yeah.
mood aspect. Like a lot of people will have you do the write down the food part, but they don't have you write down the mood part, and the mood part is the mirror.
Mm-hmm.
And it's so huge. And so one of the things that I want to share along with the idea of healing habits is one of the things, that really works very well is, how you start your day. And how you start your day sets the tone and mood for the entire day. So when I get up first thing in the morning, I will actually do things like have a little bit of clay and drink a couple glasses of water so that I just flush the whole entire digestive tract. But following that, I will do oil pulling. And so you put oil into your mouth, like a teaspoon, a tablespoon, and then you can actually put essential oils in it, like peppermint or lavender or something like that. So just a drop or two, and then swoosh it around in your mouth it's a little weird if you've never done that at first, having oil in your mouth, sort of like, but it's quite thick at first, but then it actually goes very thin. But you do that and you swoosh it around your mouth and for 5, 10, 15, 20 minutes. And by the end of the time, I mean, it's like this, different colored substance, but it's amazing for cleaning up the whole mouth environment. But the other thing it does is it pulls stuff out of the brain, as well as it's a fabulous methodology for clearing out the sinuses. So you'll find that you just have these globs come out down through your nasal passage and even up from your lungs. You'll start to cough the stuff out of your lungs when you take the essential oils into the oil pulling method.
With oil pulling, I have been told by Ayurvedic practitioners to only use raw, cold pressed sesame oil.
Yeah, sesame oil is the best. Well, the reason, why that is, in Ayurvedic medicine, medicine that comes out of India, centuries ancient medicine, which is really great when you look back at the forms of medicine that have been around for hundreds of years and thousands, if not millions of people have used it, then you get some wisdom coming down the line. But why they say sesame oil specifically is that the Indian Ayurvedic medicine has 3 different, what they call doshas, so 3 different kinds of personalities. And all 3 doshas can handle sesame oil. So that's probably where that's coming from.
Oh, very interesting. That's cool.
And in actual fact, in the Ayurvedic medicine, they say to put it on your skin, like completely coat your whole entire body with sesame oil and then go have a shower. But you know what? I just find that a little bit top heavy.
I've got an Ayurvedic practitioner who gave me some oil. I still have yet to do it. She told me how to do it, where you heat it up and you get in a warm room, or you have a heater in the room, and you cover your entire body, just massage your entire body, including your scalp and your hair, your entire body in this warm, like very, very, very warm. So you have to heat up the oil, and you just massage your whole body. And there's herbs. It's Ayurvedic oils with herbs in it. And it stokes the fire, it stokes the heat, it balances the body, closes off the body from the cold. And so she's just convinced that I need to do this. And I know I have
but
the oil.
Here's the day in life of us on the express lane, right?
Right.
I mean, who has the time? And the method is not easy. It's not, a streamlined methodology. And so my practical nursing side comes in there and goes, nah, I don't have the time, nor the inclination. And so that's why I converted it over to the oil pulling, because if you're putting the oil into the body, and it doesn't have to be voluminous. Like if someone has a gallbladder issue or no gallbladder, you do have to be careful with doing oil. And the lymphatic system is getting clogged up. So all of this orientation to putting all this oil in and on the body, you do need to be careful, because that can have the opposite effect. But that's why I like the oil pulling in the mouth method, because you're getting it into the body, not in voluminous amounts. It's extracting the stuff out and you're not actually swallowing it, but you're getting the effect. And it's such an easy, pleasant, fast, and convenient methodology.
Oh, it's so much fun too. And my mouth has never felt cleaner. I mean, you can go to a dentist and have your mouth cleaned for an hour, and it'll be nothing compared to 20 minutes of sloshing around. Like you said, it's a very little amount of oil that you're using, like a teaspoon, 2 teaspoons. It's a very little amount. And then, like you said, you're not swallowing it, you're spitting it out. But yeah, oil pulling is pretty amazing. And your mouth feels so clean afterwards. It's helping to pull toxins out of your mouth and also kill all the bad bacteria, but leave the good microbiome alone. It's pretty awesome.
Exactly. Yeah. So this was all along the healing concepts, right? The healing habits that we were doing, but it's how you start your day, and how you start the day sets your tone. So one of the things that my mentor taught me was music. Music is the one part that gets through to us vibrationally. So put on whatever music it is, maybe the 60s, the 70s, or, instrumental music or jazz or vocal or, whatever it is that literally rocks your socks, and put that on and just completely absorb that vibration and allow that beautiful energy to completely encompass and cocoon you and start your day. And when you notice that your mood is starting to go on the slippery slope downwards, then put the music back on, because the biggest thing that we can do for our health and our healing is two things: music, but also behind the music, do gratitude. So as you're listening to the music, start to think of all of the things that you are so joyful, that you're so thrilled to be alive for. I must admit, when I was at my low ebb and didn't want to be here, that was 100% the opposite spectrum. But now I am so happy to be here, to be part of the evolution that is happening on this planet, the part of the letting go of the mindset of illness and moving into the mindset of wellness, letting go of the dinosaur thinking and dinosaur way of being into the light and love that is so here on this planet and is so easy to express and to be a part of. And so if you focus on love and gratitude throughout your day, all the things you love to do, so do today something that really makes you happy. Do something really nice for yourself today. Get out in nature, dance, have a bath, do aromatherapy, whatever it is that raises your vibration. Do that today, not tomorrow, not next week, sometime in the future, because your only choice in life, your only point of choice is right now. It's not the past and it's not the future. This is the only time that you can change. And so if it's to be, it's up to you. So that old expression, if it's to be, it's up to me. And to really own that, and that you deserve it. Like so many of us have grown up with guilt just laden down on us, and we have to be adults and we have to be serious, and we, look at the kids, look at puppies, like just play and be joyful and join in that celebration of life and acknowledge all of the beautiful things that are here, that the nature, the beauty, the people. Ashley and all of her brilliant, guests that have come through and have dropped pearls of wisdom into your life and have changed any ounce of your orientation in life. And then you just take all those little ounces and make them up into lots and lots of liquid and drink that every day.
The joy juice.
The joy juice, like just saturate your body in joy juice, because you so deserve it. You so deserve to have the most awesome life, the most awesome body, the most brilliant brain, and just the feeling of complete wellness and happiness. If there was anything that I could give to you right now, it would be all of that, because you so deserve it. And it's, you got to open up to receive it and let go of whatever it is that barriers you from that. Let go of all your limitation, all your lack, all your unforgiveness to yourself. Like in this moment, let's just take this one moment of time and completely forgive everything that has ever happened previously in your life. No matter what it was, whether you did it to someone or someone did it to you, let's just totally, in this moment, send absolute, complete love and forgiveness to the past. And know that you, in your true being, haven't done anything wrong, because you have come here to make a difference in your own evolution, to make these wonderful choices for wellness and then radiate that awesome, loving, vibrant, sunshiny energy into your day, into your life, and into the lives of everybody you touch.
I love that you brought up forgiveness. We have to remember that by holding on to that anger, resentment, or that hurt or betrayal is only hurting ourselves. It's not, we so desperately want our holding on to our anger and betrayal to hurt that person that offended us, that hurt us, right? We want to hurt the person who abused or victimized us, and yet holding and not forgiving is just perpetuating hurting ourselves.
Yeah,
And
anger only hurts you. It
right,
doesn't hurt
it doesn't hurt the person you're
anybody
angry at.
else. And so, why in your own mind you would never take a cup of substance knowing it was poisonous and drink it. Yet you put yourselves in environments that are like that. You create emotions that are like that. You hang out with people that are emoting those emotions. You hang out in toxic environments. And why? Why would you logically? Spock in Star Trek would say, not logical, human, not logical. Like, why would you expose yourself to that and absorb it? It's their stuff, it's their evolution. You can't change them. That's their story, their choice. Your choice is this moment and what you choose to focus on and what you choose to own.
Beautiful, wonderful. Well, we can all focus on that, and to love ourselves is to forgive so that we can heal and move on and stop letting that person, finally stop letting that person hurt us by forgiving and by loving ourselves. So focus on the joy juice and loving ourselves and listening to our body and using those little whispers of the symptoms as our guide towards our health, towards the vision of true health that we're looking to achieve. Thank you so much, Kellyanne, for being part of my healing journey. It's been such a pleasure having you here again. And I know listeners who are curious about your platinum energy system, they can call you up and they can go to platinumenergysystems.ca. They can call you up. I know you're giving a discount to the Learn True Health listeners. It's very generous of you. And I have to say that Kellyanne's customer service is phenomenal. If you go to Learn True Health Facebook group and search through, you'll find not just me, don't take my word on it. You'll find listeners talk about their experience with Kellyanne and how amazing she is and what a big heart she has to help each and every one of us to gain the health that we deserve. So I must applaud you in your very, very diligent efforts to help all of us to detox and nutrify our body and come back into balance. If you're interested in learning more about what Kellyanne does for her day-to-day routines, she shared in episode 292 and 293, she shared some interesting cocktails that she drinks that are healing to the body and healing to the gut. So you can go back and see that. You can go to learntruehealth.com to read the show notes of those episodes as well, which have the recipes. I believe we posted them in there. Kellyanne, thank you so much. Is there anything left unsaid? Is there anything you'd like to say to wrap up today's interview?
Just, sort of one thought, in your life, think about this for 1 second. Where are you investing your time, your energy, and your money? And there's one thing I want you to go away with is the knowledge and the acceptance that you only have one body in this lifetime.
Mm-hmm.
And that's where your investment should be focused.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. Well, if they're listening to this show, I know they're absolutely investing their time in their healing. Ignorance is bliss. When we were all 20, we, ate whatever we wanted to, pulled all-nighters, and we could get away with it. And now, now we eat one wrong thing or we miss a few hours of sleep, and it's like the end of the world. So,
Whammo.
right?
Exactly,
Yeah.
exactly. It
So,
was just that, as you get clean, your body, wants that environment. And so why wouldn't you want a beautiful sunny day instead of a stormy, cloudy, horrible wet day? It's like it's the choice of what you expose yourself to. What goes around comes around. So
mhm.
put yourself in the environments with the people and with the life that supports you to be your best self, because that's who you really are.
Brilliant. Thank you so much. I look forward to having you back on the show again sometime soon. And also, I definitely look forward to hearing from the Learn Your Health listeners in the Facebook group about their continued experiences with your platinum energy system. I just love that there's another tool out there that we can help us to get to where we want to go quickly, right? Speed up the healing process so we can have more joy juice in our life. So thank you so much, Kellyann. It's been a pleasure having you here today.
Well, it's been a pleasure to be with you. All right. Well, God bless everybody.
Are you looking to optimize your health? Are you looking to get the best supplements at the lowest price? For high quality supplements and to talk to someone about what supplements are best for you, go to takeyoursupplements.com, and one of our fantastic true health coaches will help you pick out the right supplements for you that are the highest quality and the best price. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Takeyoursupplements.com. That's takeyoursupplements.com. Be sure to ask about free shipping and our awesome referral program.